What's going on, good people? We on here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram on a good old Labor Day, man. I'm like, man, I don't know how I feel about this holiday, man. It's like, man, I sure know wish people was open and working and stuff like that, man. I'm trying to get some stuff done, man. I need to talk to the attorney's office. I need to be shaking and moving, but I like that we got a lot of people at the house that's gonna check this out, man. So let's get this thing going, man. Wanted to talk about the number one thing you need to do to get your first deal or your next deal. And man, I'm excited about it, man. How about you, Cordero?
Oh, dog. Always excited, man. Always excited to one help people get to their first deal. But when you see somebody throw up, man, I just got my first deal. It was a 30 piece, or even if it was $2,500, whatever it is, when you see somebody, I'm like, oh man, that proof of concept just unlocked in their brain. You know it did. You know it clicked. And so excited, man, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt, man. So, uh, man, make sure you like, subscribe to the YouTube, man. Go check us out on YouTube, like and subscribe, all the other good stuff. But let's get started, man. So the number one thing I was thinking about this today, read Grant Cardone 10X rule, of course. But I was thinking about this today, man. The number one thing that you need to do to get started is be an action taker, man. Like that's the number one thing. Like you ran across, like if you're looking for your first deal, you know what you're supposed to do. If you're
Yeah.
looking for your next deal, you know what you're supposed to do. You just have to be an action taker. That's it. Like, dude, bottom line, action taker. It's like that's the number one thing to get your next deal is action taking. Like you just gotta go out here and go get it. You gotta go out here and take action, man. So that's the number one thing, man. That's what you gotta go out here and do is take action. Um, that's the number one thing, man. Like that's the number one thing I see holding people back. I'll put it that
But
way.
do you
Number
have
one, see, the number one thing to hold people back is taking action. It's like I told like most people today, hey man, I help you learn how to get started. They ain't hit me up. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It's like
yeah.
I know people personally that's trying to get started wholesale real estate. They ain't hit me up.
Me
It's like,
too.
you
Me
know what
too.
I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like just take action, man. So I think that's the number one thing, man. It's just simply being an action taker, reaching out to people, hitting people up, letting people know what you're trying to do. I was talking to somebody earlier. It's like, what if I don't have this? What if I don't have that? Man, let people know what you're looking for. Let people know what you're trying to do. Because when you let people know what you're trying to do, people start thinking, do I know anybody? You know what I'm saying? If Cordero will tell everybody he know, hey, I'm looking for a house. I'm looking for some property. I'm working with some investors. They're looking
Yeah.
to buy in this area right here. I'm looking for property. They're gonna start thinking, do I know anything? And if they know anybody that's looking to sell, if they run into anybody, they're gonna think, Cordero said he was looking for a house. It's like, you know what I'm saying? So like just that action alone, like that costs you nothing to
Yeah.
go and talk to people. Cost you nothing.
Yeah, man, for sure, for sure. But do you have to have everything figured out? Don't you got to have it like completely figured out before you take action?
Dude, no, man. Like, dude, I would have never done a deal if I didn't get my butt up, leave my house, and go talk to a guy that was cutting some grass at a property that I had no shot of wholesaling. I knew I had no shot of wholesaling. But I got my butt up, went out there because I wanted to talk to the property owner. I ended up talking to the guy who's cutting his grass. And the guy who's cutting his grass put me onto a cash buyer. And come to find out, like I talked to that cash buyer, we was just talking. And I was like, shoot, you know, I had some people that I thought like, man, they want way too much money. It's not a deal. Nobody wants that property. I just started sending them some properties that I had that I thought wasn't deals. And he was like, hey, what about this property right here? Do you think you can get them to this dollar? And then I went and asked them. Boom. They end up saying, oh, I think we might be able to do that. And then I said, hey, when can we come see it? Bam, there we go. The ball
Yeah.
started rolling. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm telling you, man, just to get, dude, talking to a random Joe who cut grass. I wasn't sitting there thinking, man, I better go talk to this dude who cut grass because that's gonna be my first deal. So,
Yeah.
you don't think that. It's like you just go and be action taking. It's like just go and take some action, man. It's like that's
Dude,
what you gotta do, man. Just go take some action. I think
you
that's
got to.
the number one thing to stop people.
Absolutely, man. I think they talk about analysis paralysis, and that's kind of um, a commonly understood thing, but it's in the context of wholesaling. That's just in general. People can do that. You can start to educate yourself. I know people who go to college and they kind of, I'm not talking to everybody, but there are some people that keep going back to college because they're really afraid to get off into the real world and start to actually execute on what they wanted to go to school for, or like got to face realities like, dog, let's get into a point where doing is takes precedent over knowing or educate myself or reading about it. We always talk, that's important. You need to have a fair amount of both, but ultimately it's all going to boil down, whether you get a deal or don't, ain't if you watch this video or not,
Yeah.
ain't if you read a book or not. It's all going to boil down to what did you do, what actions did you take to push you closer to getting reaching any goal that you set. I was watching a video the other day. It was Deion Sanders and his son, his oldest son.
Everybody watching Deion Sanders and the Sun, ain't it?
Man,
God.
dude, I like his family dynamic or whatever, but this I think it was they just funny, bro. They just funny. They got but you can tell just like his sons is like little younger versions of him, and you know what I mean. He got to like try to set the record straight, but his son, they he was just talking about, man, I'm a thinker. His oldest son, he's like, man, I'm a thinker. I like to I'm a thinker. See, that's your problem. You ain't a thinker like me, just trying to talk. And his dad was just like, well, I'm a doer. And he got quiet. His son hesitated a little bit. He got like quiet. He gonna keep trying to talk his way through it. Like, well, see, you gonna make mistakes, but I just think, and I think that was just like the youth and the wisdom of his pops, in that moment being shown. And I was looking at it like, he don't realize from his younger perspective is like doing is what's gonna count at the end of the day. Yeah, you could be a thinker. And I forgot what they were even talking about. I think he was just saying in general, I'm a thinker. And the dad was saying, well, in general, I'm a doer. That's why we got all of this that we got right now. Because you know what I mean? And so I was just like, I saw that little brief thing, and I was just like, he's right. It's important to think. It's important because at some point you want to get more strategic with the actions that you take, and you want to be more, well thought out, and you want to have all of the leverage that you can stacked in your favor. So when you take action, you're executing at greater scale. But ultimately, it's still about action. And ultimately, if we was to really weigh them up, compare them side by side, a person could think all day and never get nothing done. And a person can do all day and make mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, and then finally hit. So it's the action. If you had action without thinking, action. And I'm not advising nobody to go out there and just blindly start. But let's be real. I'm just putting the importance on how no matter what else, what type of person you naturally are. You know what I mean? If you're what they say in rocket fuel, you got a implementer or executor and a person who's the visionary. You can visualize stuff all day long, but it's somebody that need to actually put forth, do the work. That's important. And so, yeah, man, taking action is big. Taking action is big. I think that's a good point, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's like that's the number one thing that's holding you back. It's like I know plenty of people that I think, man, he could do this wholesale thing. Like he should go out and crush it, man. Like he way better than me. But it's like it's just the action of doing, man. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who got success, people who don't have success, that it's not like the people who doing deals is way smarter than people who ain't doing deals.
That's man.
It's not like the people who doing deals, they're not better than the people who not doing deals. It's just the people who not doing deals is not taking that action. That's it. They're just not taking action. So
Listen,
that's the key, man. It's all about just taking that action, man. Just taking that action. So that like that's the difference, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like I could be glad that this is an off day and having to go back to school tomorrow and
yeah,
still teaching, rolling up in there with them kids. You know what I'm saying? I could be doing that.
yeah,
The only difference between me doing that and me walking my own kids to school tomorrow, picking them up from school, feeding them lunch, playing outside with them all day. The difference between those two things is action. It's legit. That's the difference, man. The difference is action. That's
you
it.
know, plain and simple. And on the accord of Mindset Monday, I want to throw this in there because I think it ties in with taking action, and especially in the beginning. Because at some point, once you get some momentum, taking action is just you're going with the flow at that point. That's as simple as just going to get a job and going to work. But when you have zero momentum in any direction, I work from 8:30 to 5:30. I thought about hiring VA to make calls. We'll talk about that, dog. Wu Tang, shout out to Wu Tang. But when it's about starting and you don't have the momentum and you're starting something from scratch in order to take action, um, I believe personally, I believe it's a faith-based journey. A lot of people will talk about luck and getting lucky and taking enough action till you get lucky, but I think taking action without fully having everything figured out, without having, like we talked about, kind of going back to last week when Byron teed off on somebody, went straight in on the torch, uh, without having certainty that it's going to go this way or that way, without having any expectation, but you set your intentions and you take action anyway. And regardless of that, that's faith. To me, that's a faith-based journey that a lot of people are not talking about. Is you got to have faith in order to do it. Or at faith is a level that you have a level of faith. But I always say, because I heard Tony Robbins talk about this, you got to have certainty, some degree of certainty within yourself that it's possible. That means you've gotten rid of all doubt. I'm talking about not just taking action, but how you go from analysis paralysis to convincing yourself, okay, let's, because there are people who've been doing it, like you said, Byron did it for 8 years. 8 years of studying, of learning, and I did it for like 2, 3 years before I actually started trying. But some people, it's a circumstance or a situation that put your back against the wall, but it's not always that. It's some level of certainty where it's either you done told yourself, man, this gonna happen. I gotta make this happen. I gotta make this happen. I gotta take action one way or the other, or just you're certain that you're going to take action. That's what you're certain of. You might not even be certain of the outcome, but you're certain that you're gonna put the work in. You're gonna put one foot in front of the other until you get there. You're gonna make that first call. You're gonna call the 10th person because you need to. You're gonna get that person, send out the contract. You're gonna do whatever you gotta do to get there and to take this action without having certainty, without knowing that it's possible. That's what I mean when I say it's a faith-based journey. And a lot of people in business don't talk about the element of faith and how that comes into play and how you gotta have hope for something that it's not guaranteed to you on this side. And so that's why I think a lot of people don't take action and they don't actually go make the necessary jump to get their first deal or their first several deals, is because they're like, man, I don't believe in this possible. Like I always say this, when I say I'll talk to some people, I'm like, bro, it take about $200 to get you a dialer. I don't have $200. It's not about you don't got $200. It's you don't got no faith that it's possible. Really,
Yeah.
it's not about $200, because if it's about $200 for real,
I think it kind of boiled down to that rich dad versus poor dad mindset. And I think that's what it was for me too. It's like, okay, if I had the rich dad mindset and I understood that you can go out there and create money, you know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
understanding the mind would be different. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, like
Like
abundance,
that's what I'm saying. You would think different. You
yeah.
know, I have a lot of faith in the fact that I can go to college, get a degree, and that somebody is going to hire me. I have a lot of faith in that.
That's almost again certainty. That's
That's
close to
cool. I know, but what I'm saying, why am I so certain of that? Does everybody go to college and get a degree, get a job?
Yeah,
No, they don't. So why
yeah,
am I so certain of that?
yeah.
It's poor dad mindset.
Very
It,
true.
you
Very,
know, and I've seen it's like seeing poor dad happen over and over. I'm seeing poor dad happen. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah.
it's like, ooh, poor dad look good. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, I never heard of rich dad. It's like, oh shoot, there's a rich dad. You know what I'm saying?
Never met one in person, didn't grow up with one in the
Never met
household.
one person, never grew up with one, none of that. And then
Yeah.
next thing you know, you're like, man, I ain't know that was a rich dad. You
Yeah.
know? And then you're like, ooh, man, that rich dad got time, freedom. And he got money. It's
Yeah.
like, man, rich dad sound real good. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but you still question, it's like, man, you know, it's like, you telling me I've been sitting here and I was never even exposed to rich dad.
Yeah.
I really was only exposed to the poor dad method. Go to school, go to college, get a good education, get a job, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But just being able to be exposed to both of them and choose your path, you know what I'm saying, is a big thing for me. You know
I
what I'm
think
saying?
there is something wrong with it if you was meant for more. Not for
No,
everybody.
I'm saying there's nothing wrong with somebody actually doing that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, no.
somebody just chose this is what they want to do, they doing that. There's nothing really wrong with just doing that because that's what you want to do. You know,
Exactly. But here's the thing. If you know you meant for more and you got it on your heart and your mind or somewhere inside you, and you not doing that, and you done got exposed to it, you watching this video or you got exposed to the concept of the rich dad and that's out there, and you still sitting there because you afraid to take action. And I know that's not what you were saying, but I'm just saying that need to be spoke on. Like
yeah.
you afraid to take
But it
action.
comes to the car.
Come on, dog. You need to get out, get it in gear for real. You know you need to be doing this, but you just scared to fail. I don't know. Okay, taking action. That's another thing, and that's what I mean by certainty, and that's what I mean by faith. Is you can't be afraid to fail. And or I heard somebody say this one time at a cookout. Yeah, I'm thinking about starting my business. I just gotta keep, make sure I know everything.
Everybody talking that junk, man. Everybody talk about when they gonna do this or that, man. When this happen, man, I'm gonna go do that.
Nah,
Man,
they
I'm
talking about
gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. Man, everybody got a story about what they gonna do when this happened and that happened. It's like none of that stuff is ever gonna happen.
it's not gonna happen to you. It's not gonna fall out the sky.
No.
And my favorite, or I just want to, so that way when I get started, I don't fail. What? Listen, if you ain't got your first deal, if you ain't even got started yet, you're going to fail. That's not, it's like saying, I'm just trying to make sure I study the boxing so that way when I fight, I don't get hit. You're going to get hit. It's not about not getting hit, it's not about not failing. Take the action and fail and keep going. That's what it's about because you could be 30-year vet in the business and they still take L's. You think 2008 only wiped out the new people, the brand new people? No, it wiped out people. And even every time a dip come, it wiped out people who are way more experienced, got more time in the game if they are over leveraged or they're just making mistakes. But those people keep going though. You know what I mean? Or some of them just get wiped out and sit back down. But it's the real true dogs that's gonna keep going. And so don't think you need to get in here not to fail. Don't think you gotta wait till you perfect or try to set the circumstances perfectly before you can make that first call. What time should I call? Bro, just call. It's more important. Why you figure out should I call on a holiday or not? I've already called, I've already did several follow-ups today before we did. It's like, come on, bro. Why you trying to figure out is it okay or not to? I called and had a perfect conversation. Ain't nobody cussed me out. All I did, oh hey, how are you? Yeah, we're thinking about selling. Then you know what I mean. So it's like start doing. That's the number one thing for sure. Taking action.
Yeah, for sure, man. Let's answer some of these questions though. Wu-Tang, somebody he worked from 8 to 5. I thought about hiring a VA to make calls. That's what I did, man. I hired a VA to make calls because I wasn't calling during the day, but I would always make sure if they thought anybody was interested. I gave them the script, go to the script with them, make sure that they know, hey, if anybody's close to being interested, then set an appointment for me to call them, basically after I get off work. You know what I'm saying? So like that's what I did. And then I had like a list of people that I had to call back when I got off work. So that's what I did. What do you think, Padura?
Man, I would say I don't think it's a bad idea at all to hire a VA. But Wu Tang, I don't really know where your experience level is. One thing I've heard a lot of people try to do, they be like, man, I'm just gonna hire a VA.
And
But
they don't want to do it themselves.
they ain't cold called nobody themselves, or they
Yeah.
ain't done it what they're asking the VA to do themselves. So don't hire a VA to do the task that you don't want to do. I know what you're saying, or don't know how to do, especially not, you're hiring the tasks that you can't do from this hour to this hour. And I think that will help for sure. And that's leveraging your time. But ultimately you're going to hire them and you don't know how to do it. So you don't know what expectation, you don't know what standard to hold them to. You don't know what expectation to give them. So that way they know what to expect of themselves and what they know to expect of you. So you're just going to be blowing your money. You literally throw your money down the drain. And that's why you interview VAs and they'd be like, well, I worked for this one guy for 3 months and then he went out of business. And I worked for another guy for 3 months and then he went out of business. It's like, make sure you know exactly. Or some people ask me, hey, when you get VAs, how do you keep them busy? I said, what? You know what I mean? It's like, if you don't have a job for them to do, then you don't need no VAs. You know what I mean? How they roll and everything about their role, leave nothing open for interpretation. Absolutely straight, clear communication. This is what you need to be doing. This is how you do it. And this is what's expected of you. Right. And when you do that, then you're good. But you need to know how to do that in order to set those expectations. You know what I mean? And so it's just like hiring a VA is good. Hiring them too early before you know what to do is just blowing your money, man. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Wunter said I already closed the deal. That's what's up, man. I would say one, get in the dollar yourself, like after you get off work. Just
Yeah,
get in the dollar a little bit so that you understand what's happening on that dollar. You
yeah,
know, it doesn't even matter what you've been doing, but
exactly. Yeah,
if you're gonna start cold calling people, you need to get a little bit in you to see, okay, first of all, you need to know how your dollar work. You know what I'm saying? Understand how your dollar work, get into it. And that way, when you hire that VA, you can say, hey, look, this is how it work. I want this to happen. I want you to set it up this way because of this. You know what I'm saying? That way you can know, oh, she should be talking to this many people. And
right.
you will understand what's supposed to be happening. That way you got something to judge her off of or him or whatever. But yeah, man, I would do that. I would jump in that dollar, even if it's like for an hour once you get off work. Just jump in there for an hour or so, knock out some calls, see what it's like, see what you like, see what kind of script you want to go with, and all that stuff. And then, then you can hire a VA to replace yourself, to do what you need them to do, and then set you appointments so when you can talk to them. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes
Yeah,
I have to be during work, like I did. I had to call people during work. But
yeah.
I guess it depends on what you're doing. Wolf of Wall Street said it was good, Brody.
Wall Street. Street.
James got a long question, man. How do you guys feel someone once they say they want to sell via text? Period, dude. Do you pick up the phone? Yeah, man. We try to get on the phone as soon as possible and run them through the sales process first. Check it, dude. Yeah, man. We try to have a short strip and try to get them on the phone as soon as we can. Ready to sell immediately handling sales process if they are not quite ready. What do you think, Cordero?
I'm curious if he was saying like, because he
Hold
said,
on, hold on. You said the typo. Sorry, I'm driving. What's
okay,
that?
uh,
How do y'all process a lead once they
okay, I see what he's
raise
saying.
their hand?
Yeah, I see what he's saying. You gotta have faith and know you're different.
Oh, he
And
was coming on what you were saying.
yeah.
Oh, we was just talking about Sean Terry real estate disruptor interview, man.
Just
We
telling you, yeah.
talking about that before we jumped on here. And he's a guru. Hey, Sean Terry, the truth. I don't care what nobody talking about, man.
If I'm not mistaken, I think this one, how do y'all process a lead once they raise their hand, is basically what James is the sum total of what James was asking right there. Like if you get him
Yeah.
on, and so again, this is why I always talk about whether you cold calling or texting, just understand that there are processes that the lead goes through, right? And it basically is marketing slash prospecting, which is text. And then once they raise their hand, you send them to the lead manager. And the lead manager is the one who determines, hey, where's this lead at? Is they hot, warm, ambient?
Yeah, basically qualifying that lead to see, okay, where they gonna fall inside of our funnel. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
So, and then if they, let's say they might be a hot lead. They're a hot lead, they need to go to acquisitions. It might be a lead that they ain't ready to sell now, but they need to be follow up on. She may put them in, she may still send them to acquisitions, because they're interested in selling. You see what I'm saying? Now they might be saying that they need a couple of months or whatever, but a good acquisition person would be able to, if that person is ready to go but just need time to sell, they might be able to lock that person up, even if they have that objection. The acquisition person just need to be able to overcome that objection. You see what I'm saying? So like that's one thing. Like if a person's interested in selling, you know, it's like I kind of like to get them into acquisitions because the acquisitions person may be skilled enough more than the lead manager to overcome the objections to get them to where, hey, I'm ready to go. You know what I'm saying? So I would say that, but then you have people who are not interested at all, kick them out. You got people that that need to be just followed up on, follow up, put them inside a follow up schedule when you're gonna call them back, the lead manager. But she just put them in different categories. Some people that might ghost you. You know what I'm saying? You've been putting them in the ghost category, and you may want to put them on a list and redial. You know what I'm saying? Throw them into a dial where you're gonna call them. Every day you call this list, maybe a short list, but you call that list every day. You know what I'm saying? So, um, but yeah, I got my VA where it's like, hey, there's a list of people that she call, like, you get through this list every day. Like these type of people, call them every day. Every day you're going through this, call all them, right? And we, just to see if we can get back in contact with them. So, Wu Tang said something. I was just gonna hire them for 3 hours. Yeah, I think that's good, man. I started off hiring mine for 3 hours. Yep, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Was that 15? 15 hours a week.
yeah,
Started mine out. Yeah, it was 3 hours a day. It was 3 hours a day. I think I may have been paying them $2 though. It was bad. It was bad for sure. Whatever it is, it was bad. But I only was a few hours. I know that. And yeah, man. I mean, I was able to, get hired the VAs, get them calling. The biggest thing is your processing, man. You know what I'm saying? You want to make sure have them know, because you don't want to be doing this for nothing. You don't want to hire VAs, they bring you in zero leads. You know what I'm saying? And it may not even be them. It may be because you don't understand how the dollar works. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So, like you don't want that to happen. That's why I'm saying get in there yourself, because it's like you want to understand how the dollar works so you can make sure you're connected with people. And you want to know how, it feels when they cold calling, because you want them to be able to come off in a way that's going to make sure that they're bringing you leads. You know what I'm saying? If you in the dollar, you can understand, okay, they probably should pick up this many leads in 3 hours. You know what I'm saying? Because of what you're running into, you can tell. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I was saying.
Yeah, man, for sure. Because they're gonna be asking you questions like, "What happened? What do I do when this happens?" Or, I got this, and the dialer just gave me this error message and this and that," and you, like, I don't know, I have no clue. But if you spent time in the dialer, you'll know what to tell them. That's one, and two. I think it just gives them more confidence in what you're doing. But this is with any position in your company that you want to fill. It's best that you kind of have some prior knowledge of that position so you understand what standard that you want to hold that person to when you get them in there. But having a VA do your cold calls and stuff like that for you can definitely be good. It could be a blessing or a burden. Because I always say it's I don't have any kids, but it's someone like having kids in the sense you work for them just as much, if not more, than they work for you. It's not like you get them and they just like, ooh, they just do the job. It's like, no, you gotta have the list ready for them to call. You gotta have them their campaigns queued up for them. You gotta make sure you're going through training with them. You gotta be listening to their calls. It's not like you get them and to just do less work. You know what I mean? It's just they help call in the hours where you can't, and it should be it can definitely be a good thing, but just know that like that's not so you could step back and just be like until you get them to a point where they're so trained and you've gotten them, and you feel confident and comfortable, like okay, they got their job, they know what they're supposed to do. But in the beginning, it's a process to do their, get them onboarded, and they may make some mistakes in the beginning and stuff like that. And you got to just make sure that you again know what is expected of them. So yeah, for sure, man. I think that's it. I think that'll be a major play, Wu Tang. Just make sure that you don't make the mistakes that I personally made and kind of like putting them in a position and dropping the ball and just stepping back. Like, oh yeah. Then you look back after a month, you done spent all this money on a VA and you ain't got nothing to show for it. No leads, they ain't no closed deals. They ain't spending time in the dialer, or they done fell asleep in the dialer. That happens. You know what I mean? They done fell asleep, you know what I mean? Or they just trying to get one over on you. It's just like you gotta be paying attention to all of that stuff. And so definitely I think you in the right track, especially with hiring a VA. And I don't want to discourage you from doing it because I think that's where the direction you want to be moving to, but don't do it the wrong way and just do them just to kind of like, oh, I'm gonna put the VA here and then you know everything else will fall into place. It's like you got to make it work. The same way you got to put a deal together, you got to make the VA and like their whole position and having them there. And like Byron said, another skill set to have is knowing how to replace a VA. What if you do hire a VA for 3 hours a day and you off into the first month, the first 2 months, and everything works out perfectly? Everything's working out wonderful. They bringing in leads, you got some real traction, but then that VA just like quit or do a better job or disappear on you or something happens or how are you going to replace them? And you would do that by having that role to find out. So it's the role that's the most important to you and vital to your business, and not that particular person. Because if that person needs to get swapped out, they can be replaced because you got the role to find out. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's definitely, it's a different animal. You talking about bringing somebody into your business. It's just a different animal, man. You know what I'm saying? You got to make sure that you got your junk together when you're talking about bringing people into your business. So that's what I would say. You got to make sure you have roles, responsibilities, all that stuff kind of mapped out the way you want it. And the easiest way to do that is getting there yourself. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say. But yeah, man. That I gotta go watch that Sean Terry Real Estate Disruptors thing, man, for sure.
No, look it out, man.
Say it was talking about something.
It's talking about something. I was watching it all last night and just, the mindset, what he thinks about. He gave us like a past, present, and future, sort of breakdown on his business, the real estate market. And I think, he talks about, that's one thing. I think he talked about this. Not one of the, again, back to the number one thing to get your first deal. Action is it. But in order to do that, you got to be obsessed in that, like you got to be, he think he said something to the effect of don't sleep, don't breathe, don't come up for air until you get that first deal. You got to be that type of like set. You got to be that type of set, that type of hunger, that type of grind when it come to getting your first deal, and just like latch onto it and don't let it go like you riding a bull or something like that. Like do not let it go, bro.
Yeah. I talk about that a lot because Max Maxwell talked about it a lot, just being obsessed. Like, you got to be obsessed, man. Like, there's no other way, man. You got to be obsessed. You get obsessed enough to take action. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you get obsessed enough to take action. But yeah, man, being obsessed is on a different level. You know what I'm saying? But that obsession is what helps people take action. But sometimes people are not obsessed and they still take action. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the taking of action though that's gonna get you to where you need to be.
Yeah.
Continually taking action, taking action, taking action, taking action, taking action. You know, like let's say if you wanted to get started, you're like, man, I want to get started. Let me reach out to Cordero because he know how to do deals. That's one action. You know what I'm saying? Cordero say, hey, go get $1. Now you gotta take another action. Cordero say, hey, you're gonna need these leads too. Go get the leads. That's another action. Cordero say, get on the phone and call for 4 hours a day. That's another action. Cordero say, reach out to these buyers. That's another action. It's like it's all these different actions. You have to take it, take it, take it. Now, if any point you're like, nah, I don't feel like getting on that dollar for 4 hours a day, man. I ain't gonna be able to do that. That action right there just killed you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, like, man, I don't want to, I can't buy that dollar, man. That's too much money. I can't, $100 a month, just too much.
Or you get real creative with yourself. And I said, man, you gotta go holler at these buyers first. And you be like, well, no, I watched the Jerry Norton video, and he said, find the deal first, and I ain't got to worry about the buyer. And it's like, okay, that's cool. But when you skip that step, you sitting there looking for properties in a place that has zero buyers. Then you on here asking, what do you do if the property don't have comps?
Exactly.
Because you know it was tough, or you felt intimidated by reaching out to the buyers, you created a way, like creative avoidance again, and like some clever way to get around. Well, I don't really need, but like just take the action, man. You should spend all day on the phone anyhow. You know what I'm saying? Might as well go and do it, man. Don't, take that action. And a good point is just like I think about like the fundamentals of the business as action, but maybe reaching out, like if you know Byron, or reaching out to me if you know me. It's like reaching out to somebody that's just as important as any other action, as being in the dialer 4 hours a day, and doing all of these things consistently until you break through. But I say until you break through. That's something I want to be clear on. There's no dreamland where you get to sit back and there's no more action to take. It's all, there's no more evolution. There's no more like, oh, I can sit here. It's like, just get there and keep going, or just set your face and your mind and your intentions on the fact that once I figure this out, it's about the taking action. That's what it is. It's just like you think about a lion. You think about a lion in the wilderness. There's no point where they just like, man, I'm gonna catch this one meal and then I'm gonna eat for the rest of my life. It's like he catch it, he's good. He's got to go out there and catch it again, and there's no certainty that he's gonna catch. And I was going just thinking about what you said the other day. I was like, man, you know what? One of the biggest things that I did before I got off into real estate and actually started, before I even started studying real estate, I knew I wanted to own my own business. And so I was like, I need to get a job in sales so I can sharpen my sales skills. But what I really was thinking about was it teaches you the concept of you eat what you kill, and only that. And I would say to some people, if you're really trying to like wrap your mind, if you still in your 9 to 5, you still trying to figure out a way to make the transition, I recommend getting a job in sales. It's definitely a decent paying job. You don't got to worry about that or comparing it to whatever career you got. You make as good as you are at it. You eat what you kill, dog. There's no cap on your pay. You see what I'm saying? And I was like, man, let me get used to that, because once you really get out here into the business world, that's what a lot of people usually have a problem with when they make that transition from 9 to 5 to this. Is it's like the paycheck was guaranteed because I put my time in, but now you got to get used to that concept of I only get paid.
You gave your time away.
What'd you say?
Put your time.
You gave your time away, dog. To somebody else's dream and not your own, really, is what you did. And so get used to that concept. And I think getting a sales job, because some sales job, they give you an hourly pay or some sort of salary and your commission. But you need to be commission minded and try to figure that out, because that's what it is out here in business. Because then you wake up every day thinking, well, I get paid in direct correlation to the amount of work or the skill set or the quality and value that I provide to somebody in some context. And then when you get out here, you create your own business and company and platform, and that's what it is. But there's no certainty. There's no certainty in that sales job. There's no certainty here. There's no guarantee. Just like there's no guarantee that a lion is going to eat today, but he still go out there and hunt every day. And the hunt don't stop.
So just because you don't eat today don't mean you're gonna sit around. Hey, I'm just gonna stay over here. I ain't even go out there. I ain't gonna go out there and try to find that next day.
Man, I ain't catch nothing today. I ain't ever gonna eat ever again. I'll never
Hey,
eat again.
I'm that line on the day where everybody just chilling up under the shade. I'm still out there prowling around, looking around, trying to see if there's anything out here that I can jump on. You know what I'm saying?
what? Everybody.
On Labor Day, like, man, anybody talking about something?
Labor Day. It's supposed to be cool.
Hey, man, I done locked some jokers up. Shoot. Man.
Oh, that'd be the best time.
Christmas Eve. I'm hitting jokers up, man.
Man, that'd be the best time because if they hitting you, if they having that conversation back with you, that means something. That means something about that meal that you about to, you know what I mean? But I think that's just something to think about when you in this is don't think like, oh, I'm gonna take enough action to just like you need to switch your mindset. And really it's not about getting to a place where you don't gotta take no action. It's about getting to a place where you know how to do it. And I think Sean Terry talked about that in that too. It was just like now I can just create money at will. I could just find a seller and find a buyer and put that together because I know how to do it. I just know how to do it. I don't have to wait on a job. I don't have to wait on anything. And one of my favorite lines by Nipsey Hussle, man, he said, turning up my hustle's how I give myself a raise. Mentality, that's how you get yourself a raise. You don't wait on, can I get a quarter? Can I get an extra quarter this year after working hard all year? Nah, turn up your hustle, turn up your grind, your skill set, leverage it. And then that's where you get, that's where the more money.
10x your actions.
10x your actions, man. 10x your leverage, 10x your tools that you're using, and that's where it comes. And then my favorite part about this whole thing is there ain't no cap on that. Like there's no limit to what you can do. No cap. There's no limit to what you can do, and so that's why it's about taking that action. If I say get the dialer or go call these buyers first, it's not just about finding that buyer. It's not just about getting that deal. It's not just about the money. It's now you're tapping into an unlimited source.
The process.
Once you get you
gotta fall in love with the process, man.
and you get
the process. Everybody want to deal. I want to close 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 deal. Cordero is teaching you the process.
Yeah, bro.
The process is gonna lead you to closing.
Yeah.
Not because you got one deal.
Yeah.
You don't get to eat forever because you got one deal.
Yeah, man.
It's the process, man.
Another bar that Nipsey Hussle said might have been that same song where he would say, if you want fish, I can lead you to the lake, but people lazy. You know what I'm saying? He said, like, you want some fish? You want me to give you a fish? Or I can lead you to the lake and teach you how to fish.
Yeah.
Which one is that's that old saying? It's like give a man a fish. It's one. And what I'm saying here is we're not talking about it's not just about the fish. It's not just about that fish or even catching the biggest fish. If I got the biggest fish, but I don't know how to fish, what does that matter? If I know how to fish, I'm good forever, bro. All I gotta do is like when you're hungry, all right, let me go fish. That's more important. That's more valuable to you. And ultimately, my favorite part is we talk about how this ultimately is just about learning how to provide value to our community. And then that money is just a representation of the value you provide. And so when you learn how to fish, when you learn how to do this, you'll never go hungry ever again. That's all I'm saying. This is nothing new under the sun.
For sure, man. I think that's the biggest thing, man. It's like I was saying this a long time ago. I was like, dude, you can take everything away right now and move me to freaking North Dakota somewhere. Still can get it done. It's like, I get it all back. You know what I'm saying? Just knowing how to do it, man. You know how to make money. You know what I'm saying? You know how to make money. You know how to make money. So. But that's the beauty of it, man. That's the beauty of learning the process. People always talking about, hey, can you guarantee this? Am I gonna be able to close my first deal if I call this many people? That. It's like, dude, I'm teaching you the process, man. The process is what's worth all the money, all that money. Like it's the process. You can go get one deal, you close 10K deal. How long 10K gonna last you? If you ain't got no process.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? How long it gonna last you if you ain't got no process? That 10K be gone and you be out there serving, trying to figure out another thing to do.
Exactly, man. Out from scratch. It's like, nah, dog. That's why I always say it's just like you can leave your kid money, but it's not about what you leave to them, but it's about what you leave in them. It's like showing them what to do with it is important. But I always tell this story. But just when I was watching Byron's videos, I ain't never read. I think that might have been the first time I had ever talked to you in person. I was watching your videos and putting together my business based upon all your lives. And I finally got a deal, and it was just a 6K deal. But I was like, man, I need a title. I forgot what it was. It was something that I needed. I thought I was gonna need transactional funding. And then you was just like, you was like, just call me, man, and I'll get it. And I called you, and the first thing I said, I was like, man, you just made me so much money. You don't even understand. He was like, what you talking about? I was like, he's like, how much is the deal? I was like, nah, this is just a 6K deal. He was like, oh, okay. I wasn't talking about that 6K. It was the process. I was like, dog, you just unlocked the process for me. And from there, deal. It's like, you just do deals. You know what I mean? It's just like, dog, I learned I got to fish. Because it was that certain way, like it was from text messages I had got. I had never had done no text blast or nothing like that. I was just like, oh.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So it's the process is the most important,
Process.
You want fish, I can lead you to the lake. That's what if you want something that go for the people who want handouts, man. Let me borrow some money. Let me hold this. I can teach you how to wholesale. I can show you how to get unlimited money because I can show you how to provide value and close a deal. Which one you want?
Well, that's the biggest thing, man. It's like, dude, if I told people, hey, look, sign up for my group, man. It's $100, and 60 days from now, you'll get a $10,000 check. But that's it. It's like I'm not gonna teach you anything. You just sign up, and then you're gonna pick up a $10,000 check. People will be getting on that quick. You know what I'm saying? But actually teaching you how to do this business, do you understand what would happen? It's like, do you really understand if you took the contacts and you actually implemented what I'm talking about? Do you know what would happen? Man, people talk about, like, I remember thinking back when I was teaching, I thought $100,000 a year was really talking about something. You know what I'm saying? It's like, dude, Cordero style, man. It's like, I'm telling you this stuff, you take this stuff, you implement it. Man, that ain't gonna be talking about nothing, man.
I'm just saying that coming from the person, I had never wrapped my mind around the concept of 100K a month. That never was a thing to me. That didn't exist until I saw Byron doing it on the live. I'm like, 100K this month. I'm like, that's my new goal. I got to because I was just wanting to do 10K a month. Then I was like, dog. So to think a year or 2 years prior to that, he was like, man, $100,000 a year. Ooh. And I understand. I knew that because I know the big mile point, bragging point. And I remember I was at another cookout where one of my uncles was like, well, say I make over 100K a year. All my kids make 100K a year. And I respect that wholeheartedly. But
that's big. It is good and it's big. But I'm just saying, in this business, this information is that explosive. You know what I'm saying? If I had a job, if anybody got a job making $100,000 like that, man, you're doing real good. But what I'm saying is this business, this information is explosive. It's like, dude, making $100,000, you're just scratching the surface, man. It's like you're just getting started. Oh, I made $100,000 wholesaler this year. Well, it sounds like you're just getting started. Seriously. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, for real though, like that's like you still in the beginner phase. You know what I'm saying?
That's real estate, period. And that's
Yeah,
another thing
that's
that
real
we
estate,
see
man.
in real estate is because the upside or the earning potential in this business is very high because we're talking about a product which is homes, which are very like these ain't bubble gum. This ain't t-shirt.
It ain't t-shirts. It ain't a food tray. It ain't none of that.
But
It's
even with cars, even as
people
a
pay
car,
more. People the highest thing that a person will pay for in their life is a property.
yeah,
So the most money is going to be thrown around where properties at. That's why people say most people who got wealth, they got something in real estate.
yeah,
Because the most money, the biggest money being slung around is usually got something to do with some real estate. That's where the biggest money being slung around. Yeah, man. But man, we've been over here for 50 minutes, man. We gave y'all a 50-minute Labor Day live, man. Appreciate all the people that came through, man. Wu Tang came through and commented. Wu Tang, my guy James, Wolf of Wall Street, man. Appreciate y'all coming through, man, checking us out. If you're checking out a video on the replay, man, leave a comment below. Let us know what you want to see. Any questions that you got that we can answer, man. I appreciate y'all coming through. We're going to push this thing, keep coming live for y'all, man. So y'all come with the questions, man. But until tomorrow, peace out.
how about y'all?